Hello, my name is Claire Donovan. I'm 35 years old. I'm a lifestyle photographer based in Austin, Texas, a vibrant, sun-soaked city known for its iconic motto, "Keep Austin Weird." My life used to seem perfect, a growing freelance photography career, a cozy little house in the northern suburbs of Austin, and a husband I loved deeply, Ethan Donovan, 38, a senior software engineer at a tech company. We met at an outdoor music event by Lady Bird, like 7 years ago. Since then, we've stayed close, building a marriage filled with laughter and happy, memorable photographs. Every morning, Ethan would make me a latte in our sunlit kitchen before driving off in his navy blue Tesla to the Silicon Hills office district. I'd stay home, prepping my camera gear for the next shoot or editing photos for a local magazine. In the evenings, we'd curl up on the couch together, finishing a true crime documentary on Netflix, something we both enjoyed. On the outside, our life looked as peaceful as any happy couples in Austin. I never imagined that under the bright Texas sky, a shadow was slowly creeping over my world. But happiness is more fragile than I thought. Gradually, Ethan started showing strange behavior. Sometimes I'd find him working late into the night in his office, the blue glow of his monitor casting shadows on his tense face. On some nights, I'd wake up and realize he wasn't in bed, only to find him whispering on the phone out on the back porch. Whenever I asked, he'd say it was just a work call with colleagues in a different time zone. I smiled and trusted him, telling myself his job was demanding, that he just needed some space to handle things. I trusted him completely, until the first seeds of doubt quietly crept into my mind. Everything started on a sweltering afternoon in early July. That day, I received an email notification from the bank about a $50,000 withdrawal from the joint savings account Ethan and I shared. My heart skipped a beat. That account was meant for big things only, like my plan to open a personal photography studio or preparing for the baby we hope to have next year. And yet, a large sum of money had vanished without my knowledge. I remember how my hands trembled as I picked up the phone to call Ethan. His voice came through, calm and warm as always. "Hey babe, what's up?" I tried to steady my voice as I asked about the missing money. The brief silence that followed on the other end was all it took for a sinking feeling to rise in my chest. Then Ethan answered slowly, saying he had withdrawn the money to invest in stocks. A hot opportunity that he forgot to mention to me. He laughed it off, adding that the profits would ultimately benefit both of us in the long run. I wanted to believe that explanation, I really did, but something felt off. Ethan had always been cautious, methodical. He would never make a major financial move without consulting me first. That evening, he came home early with a bouquet of bright sunflowers, my favorite. Ethan apologized for withdrawing the money without telling me, saying he wanted to make it up to me with a nice dinner. We cooked Texas-style steaks together and opened a bottle of red wine. He made jokes, tried to make me laugh, and I smiled, pretending everything was fine. But deep down, the seed of suspicion had been planted. In the days that followed, I started paying closer attention to Ethan's behavior. He seemed increasingly preoccupied, working late more often. The late-night phone calls continued. One evening, I caught a glimpse of his phone lighting up on the table. A message briefly flashed on the lock screen. "I miss you. When are you coming?" from an unfamiliar name. My heart clenched. When I looked up, Ethan had already picked up his phone and tucked it away, giving me a tight, uneasy smile before excusing himself to the back porch to take a work call. I knew, without question, that wasn't work. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay next to Ethan, listening to the rhythm of his breathing, while silent tears soaked my pillow. I tried to convince myself, maybe it's just a misunderstanding. Don't jump to conclusions. But the intuition every wife understands was screaming at me. There was a secret. Something was being hidden behind my back. The next morning, once Ethan had left for work, I decided it was time to act. I needed the truth. I began by going through all of our financial records, Sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop, I logged into our joint bank account, the one I rarely checked because I'd always trusted Ethan to handle it. Immediately, something terrifying caught my eye. In addition to the $50,000 withdrawal, Ethan had opened an unsecured personal loan for $100,000 under both our names just last month. And the entire amount was already gone. My heart pounded in my chest. A loan that large had to mean something serious, but I had no idea what. What had he used the money for? And why had he kept it from me? I kept digging, rummaging through our shared filing cabinet. I stumbled upon something that stopped me cold. The mortgage file for our home. Ethan had quietly refinanced the house, taking out a second mortgage, without ever telling me. The loan documents had both our signatures, but mine was a lie. I stared at the forged signature, my name, imitated in pen but wrong in so many ways. The curves of the letters were off. The slant leaned too far. It wasn't mine. He forged my name. My hands trembled. My vision blurred. The man I trusted the most, my husband, had stolen my identity to secure a loan against our home. I didn't even feel the tears when they started falling. Why would he do this to me? We weren't struggling financially. We were doing well. Every question felt like a knife twisting deeper into my gut, but the only answer I had was this. Ethan was hiding something terrible. I couldn't shake the memory of that strange message on his phone. Was there another woman? Was he funneling our money to her? The thought made my stomach lurch with a mix of heartbreak and fury. I needed help. I called Megan, my best friend from college, who still lived in Austin. The moment she heard my voice, she knew something was wrong. I asked if we could meet. She didn't hesitate. We met at Joe's Coffee on South Congress, the same cozy cafe we used to frequent in our early 20s. The scent of freshly brewed espresso filled the air as I broke down in front of her, telling her everything. The missing money, the cryptic messages, the secret loans. Megan reached across the table and took my hand in hers, her eyes full of concern, but also strength. "We'll figure this out, Claire," she said, squeezing gently. "You're not alone." Her words gave me courage. We made a plan. The first step, Megan suggested, was to check Ethan's tech devices, his personal laptop, his tablet, anything that might hold clues. Being a software engineer, Ethan was extremely careful with his data. His laptop was always encrypted. His phone was fingerprint locked. But I knew his habits. He often used variations of the same passwords across accounts. That afternoon, when I was sure he wouldn't be home for hours, I went into his home office and sat in front of his MacBook Pro, the one he kept for working remotely. The screen asked for a password. My hands were sweaty as I typed in his birthday wrong. I tried our wedding anniversary, still wrong. Taking a deep breath, I tried something more personal. Tiger 1989 the name and birth year of his childhood cat. The screen spun for a moment, and then unlocked. My heart slammed against my ribs, equal parts relief and dread. His inbox loaded instantly. I skimmed through recent emails, and suddenly my entire world tilted on its axis. There were multiple conversations with an unknown email address, signed only as Daisy. I clicked into the thread. My fingers went cold. They spoke in code, but the intent was crystal clear. Phrases like, "Once the money is all in place," "a clean start," and "our perfect plan" made my blood run cold. In one message, Daisy asked, "You're sure she doesn't suspect anything?" Ethan had replied, "Trust me. She believes every word I say. Just a little longer." She meant me. They were talking about me, like I was some obstacle, some pawn in whatever delusional future they were designing. I kept scrolling, my breath shallow. One email mentioned a life insurance policy Ethan had recently taken out, with me as the sole beneficiary. The value was several $100,000. The thread spoke casually about waiting on the payout before they could move forward, as if my death was just another line item on a spreadsheet. My legs gave out beneath me. I collapsed into the office chair, barely holding onto the laptop. My hands were shaking violently. He bought life insurance in my name and planned to collect on it. There was no other conclusion. Ethan was planning for me to die, so he and Daisy could take the money and disappear. I nearly dropped the laptop. The walls closed in around me. My skin prickled with terror. My husband, the man who kissed me goodbye every morning, who brought me flowers just a week ago, was plotting to murder me for money. The realization hit like a freight train. I forced myself to breathe. Stay upright. Think. If Ethan suspected that I knew, I'd be in real danger. I had to stay calm. If I panicked, if I confronted him too soon, it could cost me everything. My life. I quickly copied every damning email to a USB drive and took photos of the screen with my phone as backup. Every piece of evidence. Every word. Whatever happened next, I needed to be ready. Because now this wasn't just betrayal. It was survival. The days that followed were consumed by absolute fear. I forced myself to keep playing the role of the clueless wife, partly to protect myself, partly to quietly gather more evidence. Every morning, I still kissed Ethan goodbye at the door like nothing had changed. But the moment the door clicked shut behind him, I was in motion, executing a plan of my own. I forwarded copies of the emails and loan documents to an attorney Megan had recommended, someone with experience in financial fraud and domestic deception. At the same time, I discreetly met with a police officer Megan's family had long known, a veteran with the Austin Police Department. I told him everything, given the severity of what Ethan and his mistress were plotting. The officer didn't hesitate. He urged me to be extremely careful and assured me they would begin an immediate investigation. This was not just marital betrayal, it was criminal intent. Every night, I lay beside a man I now feared. I kept my breathing slow and steady, pretending to sleep, even when every cell in my body was screaming to run. There were moments I woke in the middle of the night to find Ethan staring at me in the darkness. His eyes, they weren't the eyes I'd known for years. They were cold, unfamiliar, calculating. A chill would crawl down my spine. I'd shut my eyes quickly, praying he believed I was still asleep. The sense of danger in the room was suffocating. He was watching me, and I didn't know why. Then came a weekend evening that still haunts me. Ethan casually suggested we take a drive out to Lake Travis. Just the two of us. "You've been so stressed," he said. "A little escape would be good for both of us." Lake Travis had once been one of our favorite getaways. We had happy memories there, sunsets, wine, laughter. But this time my instincts screamed no. Something was wrong. I made up an excuse, told him I wasn't feeling well. I watched closely as the disappointment flickered across his face. He quickly masked it with a soft, tight smile. "That's okay," he murmured. "Next time." Later that night, he went out, saying he was picking up some medicine for me. I sat frozen on the couch, pulse racing. What if he had planned to push me off a cliff, to drown me in the lake? That single thought was like a punch to the chest. The man I'd once shared every dream with might have planned my death under the guise of a romantic trip. It horrified me, but also sharpened my focus. I could not afford one misstep. Through Megan's quiet research, we finally uncovered the truth about Daisy. Her real name was Danielle Sawyer, 30 years old, a real estate agent Ethan had met at a tech conference 6 months earlier. She was single, attractive, and apparently knew how to leverage a successful man for her own gain. According to Megan's contacts, Danielle was currently renting a high-end apartment downtown in the heart of Austin, likely paid for with the same money Ethan had stolen from me. The condo Ethan purchased through the Hellick? It wasn't an investment. It was their love nest. The more I pieced together, the sicker I felt. Ethan and Danielle had planned everything behind my back, perfectly, quietly, meticulously. I felt a deep wave of anger, not just at Ethan, not just at her, but at myself for not seeing it sooner. But this wasn't the time for regret. This was the time to be smart, ruthless if I had to be. I buried the emotion, locked it away, and reminded myself I needed to stay safe. I needed to stay alive. Only once I had undeniable proof, once Ethan and Danielle were fully exposed, could I bring this twisted nightmare to an end. After 2 weeks of quietly working with the police, the opportunity to expose Ethan finally arrived. According to the plan, I pretended to agree to a weekend camping trip with Ethan at a secluded hilltop area outside the city, his suggestion. In truth, I suspected it was the very place he had chosen to carry out his plan. I was terrified, but I wasn't alone. Officers were stationed nearby, monitoring everything from a distance. I had a GPS tracker hidden inside my phone, and before we left, I slipped a small self-defense knife into the inside pocket of my jacket. My fingers gripped the silver cross pendant my mother had given me, drawing strength from it. We drove west under a dusky sky, the sun just dipping behind the trees. Ethan was unusually cheerful. He turned on Texas country music and rambled on about the future, saying things like, "After this trip, I think we'll have the fresh start we've needed." I stayed silent. My hand in my pocket, I discreetly tapped the signal button in the police tracking app they had installed. My heart was pounding. Sweat slicked my palms. Every fiber in my body was on edge. Eventually, Ethan turned onto a deserted side road flanked by tall pine trees. There were no streetlights, just shadows and silence. My throat tightened. I knew this was it. He pulled the car beneath a tree canopy and turned off the engine. The silence was thick, oppressive. "Why don't you step out and get some air?" he said lightly. But in the darkness, I caught the flash of something sharp and cold in his eyes. I opened the car door, stepping out slowly, doing everything I could to stay calm. My shirt clung to my back with sweat. Ethan came around the side of the car. In his hand was a thin length of rope. My heart nearly exploded. "Ethan, what are you doing?" I asked, voice trembling as I backed away. He didn't answer right away. He just stared at me with an expression I'd never seen before. It was empty, inhuman. Then he spoke, voice low and gravelly. "Claire, I'm sorry." But before I could respond, he lunged. I screamed, a raw, piercing sound that tore through the trees. Ethan grabbed the rope and tried to twist my arms behind me. Thanks to my preparation, I yanked away with everything I had, stumbling back, my hand pulling the knife from my jacket. My fingers shook, but I held it out in front of me, eyes wide with tears. "You lied to me. Ethan, why? Why are you doing this?" For a moment, he froze at the sight of the blade. But then he laughed. It was a twisted, deranged laugh I didn't recognize, like something snapped inside him. "Why? You really want to know why?" His voice turned to ice. "Because of the money, Claire. The insurance. The house. Danielle, and I need it. And you? You're just in the way." Each word cut like a knife. The man I once loved was gone. Standing in front of me now was a greedy, soulless stranger. He stepped forward, unfazed by the knife. I backed up until my spine hit the side of the car. In one swift motion, Ethan grabbed my wrist, the one holding the knife, and squeezed hard. Pain shot through my arm. I cried out as the blade clattered to the ground. "It's over," he growled, eyes bloodshot, jaw clenched. He yanked both my arms and began wrapping the rope around my wrists. The skin burned as it dug into my flesh. I struggled, kicked, twisted, panic rising like wildfire. And just as I thought there was no hope left, headlights lit up the woods. "Police! Don't move!" The command shattered the silence like a gunshot. 2 patrol vehicles blocked the exit of the dirt road. Red and blue lights flashed through the trees. Ethan flinched, stunned. He dropped the rope and bolted, but he didn't get far. 2 officers tackled him to the ground. He screamed and thrashed, but they were faster. The handcuffs clicked into place. I collapsed onto the forest floor, sobbing uncontrollably. My whole body shook. It was over. I was safe. That same night, Danielle, Daisy, was arrested at a roadside motel just outside the city. She'd been waiting for Ethan, unaware that their twisted fantasy was crumbling around them. The pair now faced a long list of charges: identity theft, wire fraud, forgery, attempted murder. As Ethan was escorted past me in cuffs, he turned to look one last time. His eyes were vacant, dead. And in that moment, I realized the Ethan I had loved, trusted, shared a life with was gone. He no longer existed. The person standing in front of me now was just another criminal. One who would finally pay for what he'd done. A new beginning. It's been 1 year since that horrifying night. Now, I'm sitting in a familiar little cafe in Austin, writing down the story of my life, like closing a dark chapter that once consumed me. After the trial, the court handed down fitting sentences for both Ethan and Danielle. Our shared assets, including the house and the remaining funds, were protected under the law, though I did lose a significant portion of it to pay off the debts Ethan left behind. It was a painful price to pay for trusting the wrong person, but I'm grateful because I survived, and more than that, I got the chance to rebuild. In the months that followed, I went through therapy to work through the trauma. The nightmares don't visit me as often now. I've learned to forgive myself for not seeing the signs sooner, and to accept that the fault never lay with me. The blame belongs to the one who betrayed my trust. Photography became my therapy. It helped me heal. I started a new project, a photo documentary about women who rose from the ashes after marital betrayal. Each image I capture now carries a quiet strength, a message of resilience and hope, just like the light I fought to reclaim in my own life. Sometimes I think back to the memories, the laughter, the shared meals, the weekends we spent restoring the house. And I ask myself, how did I live beside someone like Ethan for so many years without seeing the truth? Maybe love made me blind. Maybe trust blurred the lines. But the past can't be changed. All I can do now is learn from it. These days, I cherish the small things with quiet reverence. The freedom, the peace. Every morning, I make my own latte, no longer Ethan's hand preparing it. I sit on my porch, sip slowly, and watch the golden light of the Texas sunrise dance across the floorboards. The sun still shines brightly over Texas, but the darkness no longer shadows my life. My story has turned a new page. I, Claire Donovan, survived the hell of betrayal, and I did not crumble. From the ashes of a marriage built on lies, I rose stronger than ever. If you're listening to this, I hope my voice reminds you of one thing. Always trust your intuition, honor your worth, and never be afraid to walk away from the dark, because above you the sky is still vast, still blue, and no matter how brutal the nightmare you've lived through, life always offers you a new beginning.